Anchoring your entire future to the promises of another person creates a structural vulnerability. When your identity relies on a single external pillar, you are essentially waiting for the weight of reality to find a crack. Aarav lived within this vulnerability. He was hardworking but lacked financial capital, leading him to place his entire emotional security in his partner, Riya. She provided the validation he lacked elsewhere, promising to stand by him as he struggled to find his footing. Aarav responded by shrinking his world. He passed over challenging career opportunities that would require long hours away from her, and ignored his own professional instincts to ensure the relationship remained his primary focus. Sacrificing personal ambition for emotional comfort creates a single point of failure. If the person providing that comfort leaves, the individual is left with no career, no capital, and no sense of self. The stability Aarav built was tested when a wealthy businessman entered Riya's social circle. He offered the immediate security of established wealth, mansions, high-end vehicles, and the social status that Aarav was still years away from achieving. Riya performed an economic calculation. She chose to leave, telling Aarav that love alone cannot sustain a household. She walked away from their shared life to step into the businessman's world. Aarav spent weeks in his apartment, the silence highlighting his lack of a backup plan. He faced the reality that his self-worth had been entirely tied to a person who was now gone. A betrayal of this magnitude leaves the victim with two paths. They can internalize the failure as a permanent state, or they can use the void left behind to build a new, independent foundation. This is the mechanism of post-traumatic growth. Under extreme emotional stress, the brain can rewire its neural pathways to prioritize survival and output. The energy previously spent on emotional maintenance is diverted into a singular, productive focus. Aarav reached this inflection point and decided that his vulnerability was a design flaw he would never repeat. He turned his grief into an engine for work, vowing that he would never again be in a position where someone could discard him for his lack of resources. He began a clinical audit of his life. He stopped asking why she left and started asking how he had allowed himself to become so economically and mentally fragile. Every time the memory of the betrayal surfaced, he used that surge of adrenaline to power through his tasks. The pain became a literal fuel source for his daily output. Building an empire begins with taking absolute ownership of your mental state. Before Aarav could own a company, he had to own the narrative of his own survival. He started with a low-level sales job, working 16-hour days. He lived on a fraction of his commission, saving every possible cent to build a small pool of capital, while training himself in the discipline of high-volume work. After 2 years of saving, he launched a small service-based startup. He operated out of a warehouse, sleeping on site to ensure he was the first person working and the last person to stop. Success was not linear. In his third year, Aarav lost his largest client and nearly went bankrupt. He responded by selling his only personal assets to keep the payroll active, refusing to let the venture fail. By year 5, the compounding effect of his obsession took hold. His small startup had expanded into a national firm. The hours he spent working while others slept had finally translated into a dominant market position. He was now recognized as a leading young industrialist. He owned the luxury cars and the estate that Riya had sought, but he had earned them through 5 years of unrelenting friction. High-level success is the result of applying constant pressure to deep-seated pain. Aarav had built a skyscraper on top of the rubble of his old life. Aarav's transformation was visible when he arrived at a major industry gala as the keynote speaker. He moved through the room with the quiet confidence of a man who no longer needed external validation. Across the room, Riya watched him. She saw the way the most powerful figures in the city gravitated toward the man she had once dismissed as having no future. As she listened to him speak, she realized the magnitude of the change. The person she had abandoned for a better life had built a life far beyond the reach of the man she had chosen instead. She approached him during a break, her voice trembling. She apologized for her departure and asked if there was any way he could forgive her and let her back into his world. The power in this moment was silent. Aarav looked at the person who had once been his entire world and realized she no longer held any influence over his emotional state. He didn't react with anger. He offered a simple smile, one that came from a place of genuine detachment. He told her that he had forgiven her years ago. He explained that her betrayal was the necessary catalyst for his success. Without that pain, he would have remained comfortable and stagnant. He told her his destination had changed, along with his life. Then he walked forward to join his colleagues, leaving Riya standing alone in the middle of the crowded room. A devastating betrayal can be the most effective blueprint for a new life. It provides the clarity and the drive needed to build something that cannot be taken away. Those who weaponize their darkest moments build fortresses of success. They create a future so substantial that the ghosts of their past can no longer find a way inside.